Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Game of Thrones Winter's Coming. In today's episode we are going to take a look at something that's mostly focused around newer accounts with a new series going on, and the fact that it's expected that a lot of new people and new accounts will join into the game because of it. I have decided to try and make like a video that's focusing around some of the mistakes or common early game mistakes that newer people make in this game, and this video is going to focus around some of those mistakes, why they're mistakes and how to avoid them and what to avoid. And this is just meant to help out the new guys that are coming to join the game, so let's jump right into it. One aspect of this game that's super important to note is that you have to try and keep your BR low so it doesn't get easy to invade the kingdom that you are inside. A higher BR of course allows for people that are stronger to move in cheaper, so keeping your BR or battle rating, which is the number that you usually have up in the left corner beside your profile picture, keep it low so that it becomes costly to actually go inside your kingdom and invade. And a bunch of those reductions can be done through smart playing or not messing things up from the early game on. And one of the things that I really messed up with, to a certain degree at least, are researches, because researches can consist of a lot of BR. I mean, you can just look at the research that I have going on right now. Master Circle, you can see that's pretty much 2 million extra, 2.4 million extra BR once that's complete. And because of that, it's super important to kind of know what researchers are good and what researchers are bad. And for the early game and the early account, I would highly recommend you to focus around the production research, the military research and the expedition. Mainly because those three are key components into the game. The production of course takes care of certain things inside your city. The resources that you gain is also increased by the harvesting rate and so on. Then there is the military aspects, which increases your stats of your troops. It also allows you to go faster for more advanced spying, to unlock higher level tier troops. And then there's of course the expedition and pacification, which focuses around rebel leaders, dealing damage to them, killing them more easily, getting more motivation and so on. And these three are key components or key research trees that you should focus on. Stuff that you should avoid is, for example, the city defense ones and the advanced defense, because those hold a lot of research power and a lot of BR increases, but they actually do not give any real value to your city. The fortification system and the wall system and so on is pretty outdated. It doesn't really function in Game of Thrones right now. They are paper thin. Even if you have million wall defenses, they just get smacked down by 2 or 3 hits, so it's not really worth investing in. Save speed ups, use some of the more important research trees, of course. There's the advanced military, which gives nice utility researches, which can be useful. Also believe gives an additional march at the end, which is super important. The same for formations, has a bunch of utility things, and that's super important. Then there's commandership, also utility, focus around certain things, also stat increases and so on. Refinement is super important as well, because refinement is a huge chunk in this game. It gives a lot of combat stats, general stats overall. And then iron defense, I would probably skip that unless you want to go full bow account, but that also means that you have to take on more BR, so that's one of the reasons why I don't like bow accounts, because you have to increase your BR higher. Great city is only if you expect to become a whale, fighting for the bigger cities in CS, for example. And then there's of course strength up army, which is super important, is for the tier 5 troops, and I would probably say go that slowly. But yeah, avoid the great city one, the 2 wall ones or fortification ones. and potentially also the iron defense, and that's cutting away probably 15-20% of research BR for you, so that's a good chunk to keep in mind. The next thing that we are taking a look at that confuses people often is the difference between passive stats and active stats, and these can be confusing because people might look at the details like I do right now and they see two set of numbers, and one of the numbers says with the Lord Expedition and the other one doesn't say anything. So how you have to understand it is that a lot of stats usually are tied to your commander, and these stats can be different in the form of equipment and badges, which are tied, and then there are other things, for example the S and A tokens, which are in the game, which gives passive stats. And the way that you can differentiate that with active and passive is that active stats are only available if you have your main lord inside the march, and as you can see here, these are the A and S tokens, and these stats that you get here are all passive. You can also see here it's always active, which is super useful. Usually in a lot of cases they will try and clarify it in the game if the stat is a passive stat or not. At the same time, if we look at the commander, for example, you can see the main commander is the lord that you have picked here, and then there's a bunch of equipment around that can give certain things. For example, if I go to spear, then you will get the spear stats and the badges that are on it in that regard, but only if your main lord is outside, so you can kind of differentiate with that. The same with dragons. Dragons do not give stats if they are not taking part in the battle, so even if you have a bunch of skills slotted into the dragon, then if the dragon is not there, the stats will not apply to the battle that's in it. So that's kind of a way to kind of differentiate, but generally talents, equipment, badges, those things are considered active stats, which are tied to your main lord. Then there are certain reductions from Dragon Blessing, for example. There is S and A tokens, stuff like that is considered passive stats, which will be active from the moment you unlock it and have it on your account. So keep that in mind. Which also means that if you want to use active stats, then you have to switch around your equipment. For example, if you want to have research, then you have to switch over to research equipment, and once you do that, then you'll get a higher research, which allows you to reduce the time it takes to actually finish a research, and that's how to optimize your account, by switching around your equipment and use them for whatever need that you have at the moment. So the last common mistake that a lot of people have done early on and that they don't seem to understand is the fact that a lot of troops is not necessarily better for you. There are several reasons to that. One of the reasons is the fact that, as you can see up here, that certain troops either are countered or counter each other. For example, calves counter infantry. They deal extra damage against infantry, but take extra damage from spears. The same applies to infantry. They deal extra damage to spears, take extra damage from calf, and the same for spear, where it takes extra damage from inf, and then also deals extra damage towards calves. Bowman or bow is in the middle of everything, and they do neutral damage and take neutral damage from everything, and for a while that was really strong and really great, but as times have changed and progress, it has become more normal to just have whatever troops that you actually prefer to invest into. But people think that because they don't understand these counters, that just having a bunch of troops is going to keep you safe, which is not really the case. Because as you can see, each troop comes with a certain amount of power. So if you have a lot of troops, that means that you have a lot of power, a lot of BR, which means that you're inflating your power points up in the left corner, and that's making your castle seem bigger. and this also means that it's more cheap for stronger people to come into your kingdom and invade your kingdom and start attacking people in there. And the reason why that can be a problem is because, well, if you don't have the combat stats to actually defend against them, then it doesn't matter if you have 30 million troops. If they see you with the bubbles, then you're just going to get zeroed out, and they will just murder all your troops because you don't have the combat stats applied to them. So a lot of the cases, having a lot of troops is actually not a benefit for you, but rather makes things more difficult for you because you have to go protect them. A good rule of thumb usually is that once you're new to the game, I would highly recommend you to have a good amount of wounded or hospital space, and once you have reached a certain amount, then try to form your army around the fact that you don't have to have that many troops in your castle where you can't where a lot of them die, because once you get hit, then of course a good chunk of troops are going to the hospital and the rest is going to die once the hospitals fill up. So a large capacity in terms of hospital means that you have room for more troops. Furthermore, if you use the shelter, you can see that there's also amount of troops that you can there. So I would personally recommend you to not have more troops than your combined hospital space plus your combined shelter space plus 1 or 2 march sizes, so you don't have to send out a bunch of troops, and that way you can keep your BR low while not hopefully get invaded by other people. Another general rule is that if you're not super PvP heavy, then for events like Alliance Conquest, it's just fine having 3 million troops. Then just have 3 million troops, don't go over 3 million troops, and then if there are certain other events, kill your troops in that, for example in Glorious Battle, then kill your troops in there, get some tokens for it, and go down to maybe 2.7 million, 3 million, something like that. And of course always make sure that you keep yourself bubbled. Bubbles are super important in this game. And yeah, that's pretty much the 3 main mistakes I see in the game that people do. I hope it was useful to those that are creating new accounts, and yeah, like video if you want to, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and if the game has caught your attention, then there's going to be a link down in the description below where you can click on it and then play the game. And there's also going to be a link for the Game of Thrones Windows Coming Discord group if you need help or just want to talk with people. So, but this is going to be all for me for this time. I hope you enjoyed the video and wish you all a great weekend. Take care, guys. Bye bye.